everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera Passions. I'm your regular host, Latara, back today with my lovely niece, Lanaya.
Hi, guys. Oh, I forgot you added like a soundboard. That's so cool.
Yeah, welcome back, Naya. Thank you for agreeing to do this with me on such short notice, because anybody who listened last week knows that I was on the podcast by myself last week, and I'm not going to lie, it was a struggle. The thing is, the episode turned out fine. The thing is, when I do it by myself, I have zero time ever to think, right? Yeah. So usually when I'm on with somebody else, I know that I do like 70 to 75% of the talking usually. But that like 25 to 30% of time where somebody else is talking gives me, it is so needed. I really need like just those moments to kind of look at my notes and figure out where I'm at and just like, form my next thought,
Yeah, and it gives you like something to like bounce off of and like, and it might like bring up ideas that you hadn't thought about before and stuff like that.
Exactly. Usually somebody else will also catch things that I didn't catch or catch things that I didn't put in my notes or, say something that makes me think of like, oh yeah, and remember this thing, or somebody, they might even like, a lot of times they like bring up things that happened in the past and I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. And that is how that relates to this. So I thank you. I'm so glad that you're here with me today because I really needed somebody to do this with me after last week. I was exhausted. Like it took me hours to get through that episode by myself. So, so thank you. So we're talking about episodes 3. No, not 3.
3. I was about to say I watched the wrong episodes then if it's 3.
We were talking about episodes 691 through 695. Yes?
Yes.
All right. So before we get into the episodes, let's say a quick shout out to all the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Moonashe, Breland, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camellia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean, S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche Page, Casey, Garanch, Tom, Shawnette, Pablo, Stephen, Daisy, and Shane. Thank you all so very much for being patrons. And if you are not a patron yet, you can go on over to patreon.com/passionspodcast and sign up for whatever tier you find most agreeable. Now is probably not the best time because I'm going to be going on my hiatus, my break in exactly 2 weeks, which means that the Patreon will be paused. So anybody who is a patron, don't worry, you will not be charged for the time that I am not doing anything. With that said, patrons, we have a watch party this week coming up. Yes. So this episode is going to come out on this Wednesday. And then we have a watch party the next day. So this party comes out on the 19th, Juneteenth, everybody, whoop, whoop. And then on the 20th, we have a watch party. And then we have another watch party on the 24th. So check the Patreon for those details if you have not already. And with that, on with the show. We got a really big show. A really big show for all of you. And you know what's funny, Naya? You know what you probably don't know what that's from. A really big show that... It's okay. It's okay because frankly, I shouldn't know where it came from. Like, frankly, it is well before my time, but it's from from the Ed Sullivan Show. It's like it's like an impression of Ed Sullivan coming out saying, "We got a really big show."
And that makes me feel less bad.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I know about Ed Sullivan is because I was in Bye Bye Birdie, and there's a song in Bye Bye Birdie about Ed Sullivan. We're gonna be on Ed Sullivan.
Bit of a layered reference.
Yeah, I was in it in like 10th grade. I was Ursula. And we were singing it. I was like, who the fuck is Ed Sullivan? I looked it up, But anyway.
I do a bit of research.
Yeah, so this show is not about Ed Sullivan. This show is about passions. So let's get on with passions. Breathe in, breathe out. You keep me alive. It's killing me.
It's doing the opposite of keeping you alive. It's sapping your life energy.
Yo, passions is killing me. I'm so tired. These people are exhausting. So anyway, y'all, we are going to start with the one that's killing me the most. Killing me softly. Theresa Lopez Fitzgerald. This is my girl though. I actually kind of agree with like everything she's doing.
Yeah, I found myself agreeing with her a lot too. Well, to an extent. I felt myself agreeing with her.
To an extent. I mean, we have to draw the line at like all the devil stuff, but like getting a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, the lawyer.
I love him. Woody Stumper.
So funny.
I love him. Oh, I want him to be my lawyer. I said, I bet he is going to win. I bet he is quite the shark. And Ethan talking shit about him was like, where'd you go to law school? He's like, don't you worry about it. Mind your business. Okay, let's get into this. So we're starting with Theresa, Ethan, a little bit of Gwen. It's really more about Theresa and Ivy and Rebecca than anything else. So
Yeah.
Ethan, we pick up where Ethan is at the mansion, and he is confronting Ivy and Rebecca about throwing Theresa out and lying to her, saying that he had her thrown out and that he was working so she would never get any money from the Cranes. And he tells them, we need to, you, all, and by we, I mean y'all, need to be less confrontational with Theresa. But they're not going for it. They're saying, and he keeps saying, you're just going to make a bad situation much, much worse. And Ivy's like, that little tramp she won't get anything, not a damn dime. And Ethan tells Ivy, he like pulls Ivy away from Rebecca and says, you know, Mom, I'm making progress on your divorce. And I believe that if this works, you will have the sole claim as Julian's widow and everything that comes with it. And then he like tries to advocate for Theresa. He's like, so once you have that, we have to do something for Theresa. You need to like take care of her and her baby and give her some sort of compensation. She deserves something.
Yeah, that's only fair.
And he says, you know, I talked to Theresa and she was being very reasonable. And then Ivy's like, oh, Ethan, you are so naive. Teresa's just playing you. She's playing you like a $2 fiddle. I don't think she said that exactly, but she said something to that effect. She's just playing you. And Ethan says to her, you know what, let me work on this and I'll make sure that you get everything that you want and Theresa will never be a problem for you again. Ethan is so dense and dumb. I can appreciate that he is doing this for his mother. Listen, Ivy is his mama. At the end of the day, Ivy is his mother. He knows what she's been through. And I agree that Ivy deserves something in this. Like, she was married to Julian for all of those reasons. Even after in the divorce, she should have clearly gotten something just at that point. So I am of the mind that Ivy definitely deserves something. But the problem is Ivy wants absolutely everything and doesn't want Theresa to have a dime, nothing. And that is so incredibly unreasonable.
Yeah, and especially since like she's gonna need that support since she's having a baby. Like,
and the fact that Ethan thinks that he's gonna be able to convince his mother to take care of Theresa, she's right. He is naive. He is naive, but he's not naive about Theresa. He's naive about his own mother, right? So, because that lady has been very clear. It's been very clear with him. Theresa gets nothing. Nothing.
I don't know what makes him think that he's gonna change her mind somehow.
I don't know. Okay, so Ivy and Rebecca just continue to scheme against Theresa, and Ivy tells Rebecca that she has told every attorney in town not to represent Theresa or the Cranes will destroy their practice. So she's cutting Theresa off from legal resources. So basically what Ivy and Rebecca were saying before was like, okay, Theresa, well, what Rebecca was saying to Ivy, she's saying basically like, okay, we are fighting with Theresa on this legal thing. What if she gets a lawyer? You know, we don't want her lawyering up. So Ivy's like, oh, I already took care of that. I called all the law firms in town, which how many law firms could there?
That's what I was thinking. Like, they were acting like there were hundreds or something like that. Thousands, millions even. Like,
yeah, I would think in a town the size of Harmony, there would be maybe one. Maybe. Right?
But you know what? With all the craziness that goes on in Harmony, I feel like the lawyers have really like closed in and they feel like they would get a lot of money out of this town. So.
Maybe. So yeah, she says that she has called and threatened every attorney in town. Nobody would dare take her case. Then, which Ethan doesn't know, he didn't hear this information. So Ethan just tells Ivy again that her divorce should be dismissed very soon. Ivy says we still have to do something about Theresa, and Ethan says, well, Theresa just wants her baby taken care of. She never really wanted the Crane money. Ivy says, are you kidding? She wants all of this. This is not a game, Ethan. She wants all of this. Okay, so after that, let's go over to what's going on with Theresa. So Theresa has just seen Gwen and Ethan embracing at the mansion. Remember last week she went back over there to basically settle everything with Ethan and say, you know what, I give up, because she wanted to show him that he could have faith, that she had faith and trust in him, and that he could have faith and trust in her. But when she got there, she saw him hugging Gwen, and Gwen gave him like the quickest peck on the lips, and that was enough to turn this girl all the way around and send her back home in a rage. Like,
Wow.
yeah, she was like, damn you, Gwen. I'm gonna get everything that belongs to me, basically. So at home, she tells Whitney, Ethan will be mine again, and I don't care that this plan came from Julian and from hell. As long as it works, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get Ethan and the Crane money and the power. Damn the consequences, girl. That's what it was. She was like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get Ethan the Crane money and power. He does not want that. I don't know why that little part really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I was like, why does she still think that is what he wants?
Yeah,
and
he's
not what
already
he
given
ever
up on her.
wanted. Yeah.
Also, okay, I'm confused because this is another thing I had a question about.
Mhm.
So, as of right now, like, Julian is dead, right? So, like, what is this whole thing about him being in hell? Like, are these just delusions? Like, what's happening? I'm confused. Like, I thought Charity was the only one who was having delusions like that, but apparently,
Okay, let me tell you what's going on. So Theresa, after Ethan like really fully and completely broke it off of her, Theresa tried to take her own life, and she threw herself into the ocean. When she threw herself into the ocean, she was transported to hell, the real hell. When she got to hell, there was all kinds of people there, Hitler, Stalin, but also like a demon was there, and that demon turned into Julian. It turned out to be Julian. Well, we learned later that was not Julian at all. It was actually zombie Charity pretending to be Julian to try and get Theresa to do her bidding, basically.
oh,
Exactly. So yeah, she made a pact with who she thought was the real Julian in hell, but that's not at all who it was.
So it's just a disguise. It's not the real Julian.
Yeah, it's an elaborate ruse. Yeah, it is not the real Julian.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good question though.
Yeah, because when I was watching it, I was like so lost. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I get that. So, it can be confusing if you haven't watched in a minute. Even though they do a lot of recap, there's some little things you're like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah, I
they
feel
do some
like it's the
weird
thing
stuff.
that you need to know about the most sometimes. It's like some like character you've never seen before just pops up talking like they know everybody, and I'm just in here like, I've never seen this person in my life. What?
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, Theresa for some reason thinks that Ethan wants the Crane money and power, and once she has it, she'll be able to get Ethan back with that. I guess using it as a bargaining chip. I don't know. I do not get this plan at all, and I guess this is part of the Julian plan. I simply do not know. So, Theresa then tells Whitney, I've got everything under control. This whole thing is about control, and I am in control. And so then she pulls out the phone book, and she says she's going to get herself a lawyer. She's going to lawyer up.
Well, good
And
luck.
she says this is the next phase of Julian's plan, is that she needs to get a lawyer. So she calls all of the attorneys in town, and guess what? None of them will work with her. They
All
basically
three of them.
they all did you say all three of them?
Yeah.
They all basically hang up in her face, all three. And but she finally gets one on the phone because she saw in the newspaper like an ad for an attorney. I can't remember what the ad was, but it was one of those silly little like ambulance chaser type ads.
Yeah.
And so she calls and they say, yeah, we can see you right away. Come on over. And so they run out going to this attorney's office. And when they get there, the office is a mess. Like they walk in, there's boxes everywhere, there's stuff everywhere. Whitney is like, I wonder where this guy got his law degree from. And Teresa's like, that doesn't matter, Whitney. I just need a lawyer. Just need a lawyer.
We're desperate right now, okay?
Yeah. And so this office is in shambles. And then we meet this lawyer whose name is Woody Stumper, but his first name is Woodrow, and Woody is short for Woodrow. Woody Stumper, and he's a greasy, slick talking son of a gun. Okay, I love this guy though.
It's he's so funny.
It reminds me of like a revival preacher, one of those traveling preachers that go from town to town, scamming the locals out of their hard-earned money.
That mixed with like used car salesman.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's like preacher / used car salesman, and rolled up into this like nasty attorney. But I love him. So he tells her, yes, I'll take your case. She basically tells him exactly what's going on. He's like, I know exactly what to do, and I'm gonna take your case, and we're gonna make us some money, baby. And so they go over to the Crane Mansion together. And Theresa declares, well, Woody says a lot of like double speak. He's just talking in circles. Like, it made sense to me. Like, I heard it and I understood what he was saying. It was a lot of words that could be summed up in, we're suing you, right?
Yeah.
And so they declared they're suing Ivy and Rebecca for what is rightfully Theresa's, the Crane name, the house, and everything that is due Julian Crane's widow, and they will not settle for anything less. This is when Pilar shows up and she's like, ¿Qué pasó, Teresita? Don't come for my Spanish, but I just loved it. ¿Qué pasa, Teresita? I need to cut that out.
No, maybe you could try one more time.
No.
It's
She's
done.
like, ¿Qué pasa?
Okay, never mind. Just let it go.
You took Spanish. I took French. You took Spanish.
What is that? Like 10,000 years ago, I took
Is it
Spanish.
¿Qué pasa or ¿Qué pasó?
I think it's K Paso. No, it's K Pasa. It's K Pasa. But don't say it. Just
What?
leave it out.
¿Qué pasa, Teresita?
No, we can't use this. It's bad.
I'm gonna use it because I'm laughing now. I can't. ¿Qué pasa? Because it feels weird to do the accent, right?
But like, how else are you supposed to say it?
¿Qué pasa, Teresita?
Because I feel like if you don't like if you say it like in the same way, like just like your regular voice, like it won't seem right either. Like the pronunciation is gonna be off.
Like, listen, if I just say it like me, ¿Qué pasa, Teresita?
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
But if I use the accent, it's like, ¿Qué pasa, Teresita? Is that right, though? Does that sound right?
Better. Just look it up.
How? Anyway, whatever. She said, what are you doing now? Basically, Teresita. Theresa, what are you doing now? And then Pilar walks in on this big blow up that's happening, right? She walks in at the kind of the beginning of it, but she doesn't have time to like intervene, do anything, because Ivy immediately is like, if you sue me, you won't win. And Woody says, well, I beg to differ, Ms. Winthrop. Oh,
so good.
I beg to differ, Ms. Winthrop. She says, the name is Crane.
Had her heated.
And she says, and I'm not about to change it now that I can have it without that pig Julian beside me. And Woody says, I never take a case that I don't think I can win. And I believe that my client has excellent grounds here. Excellent. So then Pilar takes issue with Theresa having hired a lawyer. She's like, Theresa, you hired this lawyer? You hired this man? You hired a lawyer? Yeah. What
you hired legal protection?
Exactly. She tried to protect herself. And like, she tried to hire some of the more respectable lawyers in town, but Ivy barred her from doing so.
Exactly. So what's she supposed to do? Just lay down and die? Like,
Ivy actually kind of fucked herself on this one, because if the Cranes have so much influence, Ivy could have let Theresa get one of those attorneys in town who are actually afraid of the Cranes, and then blackmailed that lawyer into like doing a bad job.
Yeah, like let her get a little further along in the process and then mess everything up. But like, she tried to stop her way too early, and now she done got this lawyer that very well may win and is not afraid of her in the slightest.
Exactly. And then Woody, at one point, Theresa says to Pilar, I got this under control, mama. And Woody turns to Pilar and says, do my ears hear correctly? Did she just call you mama? Are you a poor lowly servant on this estate? You work for these people? Oh, the jury's gonna eat that up.
You hearing more dollar signs.
He says the daughter of a poor lowly servant on the Crane estate, and the Cranes are taking the food out of the mouth of a young pregnant widow. It was great. He's right. But it's funny because Pilar kept going, I'm the head housekeeper. Like, I'm not a lowly servant. I'm the head housekeeper. I run this bitch. Right? Nothing gets done in here without my say so. But Woody says, we're gonna go with lowly servant. I think he says that.
I think he did. He was like, the jury's gonna like that better.
Yeah. I love this guy.
Yeah.
And so he makes a note about that, saying juries love cases where high and mighty hussies like Ivy and Rebecca are pitted against, poor people, underdogs like Theresa and her mom. And so then Ivy starts yelling at Theresa. Oh, it was so good. Ivy starts yelling at Theresa, calling her every name in the book. You slut, you tramp, you are gold digging. She didn't say trifling. That would have been, that's me. That's me coming out. You gold digging slut of a girl. And Woody's like beaming. He goes, yeah, keep it up. I like it. I like that. The jury's gonna love you.
Just keep digging a deeper hole for yourself.
So Rebecca and Ivy and Ethan all start to question this man's credentials, and they ask him where he went to school, and he says University of the Streets. Okay.
That was so good.
Okay. One thing I didn't care for about this, because if y'all haven't figured it out, Woody is a black man. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, but Woody is a black man.
If y'all haven't figured it out by now, then I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. But I hate every black person have to like relate to the streets in some way. They've done it with Chad a ton. They even did it with Whitney, where at one point Gwen was like, I'm not a street fighter like you, Whitney. Like,
a street fighter.
Stop saying these people are from the streets just because they black. Shut up. I hate that. And I mean, I know the character himself said it, but I'm talking about the writers. Like, why every black person come on the show and y'all have to be like, oh, hey, they're from the streets.
Did they do that with Liz too?
They probably will when she show up. Because she's still in Bermuda. They probably will when she makes her appearance in Harmony. They'll find a way.
Gosh. I know we're not there yet, but Liz is she's being like so confusing. Like, I'm getting
she's
so many
pathetic. Liz is pathetic. Liz is pathetic. And yeah, actually, I can't wait to talk about that. Even though it's the least interesting storyline to me. Liz is absolutely pathetic. But back to this black person. So Woody says he got his degree from the University of the Streets. Okay. And then he also says, you may not respect my credentials, but by the time I'm finished with you, you'll be wishing I was defending you. You'll be wishing I was your lawyer. He says, how do you
see this court case?
He says, how do you think the jury will feel about you tricking your poor deceased husband into believing that this fine young man, referring to Ethan, was his biological son when all along you knew he was your love child with another man? Oh, and then he turns on Rebecca because Ivy has nothing to say, right? Because what can she say to that? That is the absolute truth, right? That is the absolute truth, and it will paint her as a major villain to a jury.
Yeah, in no way that's not gonna come up. So,
and then he turns to Rebecca,
her turn,
and says, "And Becky, you got the morals of an alley cat." Oh!
Becky.
That's one of the contenders for the episode title. Becky, you got the morals of an alley cat. And
I kind of like that episode name.
Me too. He says, dumping one rich old goat just to marry another. And he says, I wish all my cases were this easy. And these two ladies are pissed off. And what he says, this is all very legal. And he does a lot of like slick talking, double talk, circle talk. Ethan is confused. He's like, what'd you just say?
Of course he's confused.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Ethan's confused, per usual. He didn't understand what he said. I understood what he said, right? I knew what he was saying. You can get the gist. He said a lot of words when he could have said it more succinctly, but you can understand what he said.
Yeah, it boils down to a simple sentiment.
Yeah, which is y'all are finished, and y'all gonna have to get on out of here. This is Theresa's house.
Because we getting our check.
And so Rebecca goes, you can double talk all you want to, but there's no way in hell you'll prove this wannabe is anything but a gold-digging slut from the wrong side of the tracks. And Woody retorts, this was great. He says, I don't have to convince anyone in hell, just a judge and a jury of Theresa's peers. Yes,
the way he been eating them up is so good.
He did. He ate them all the way up. I love him. I love him. I hope we keep him on for a long time.
They deserve a good roast session.
And when he showed up, I vaguely remembered him. I was like, okay, I remember Theresa having like a lawyer who was a black man who was kind of like a little shady. Yeah, I kind of remember this. Then Woody starts going off about how Ivy and Rebecca are frauds and phonies. He's like giving a sermon from the mountaintop, right? Like he's really like, he's emoting, you are frauds, you're a phony, hallelujah. Like it was so preachery. It was so like black revival pastor preacher out in the tent in the hot heat of the summer. He wiping the sweat away with a soaking wet rag, dressed all in white linen. I don't know if y'all ever been to a tent revival, but he talks like a tent revival preacher. That might be too niche of a cultural experience, but
I think they get the gist.
That's what he talks like. It's hilarious. I love him. You're phonies. You're frauds. And he says, I represent the one and only bona fide Mrs. Julian Crane.
I'm not gonna lie, when you were saying I represent the one and only bona fide, I thought you was gonna be like, Jesus Christ. Like, I thought that's where we was going, even though we watched the same episode.
Honestly, that, as I was saying it, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Mulan, Mushu, the one, the only Mushu.
Oh, yeah. Which makes sense. He was voiced by a black man, too.
Yeah. Indestructible Mushu. That's what he says. Indestructible Mushu. But anyway, yeah, he's going off. And then Rebecca says, you know, you can double talk. Oh, I already said that part. Okay, so then Ivy's like, over my dead body, Theresa will never see a dime of the Crane money. She says, I will see you in the gutter and myself 6 feet under before you are mistress of this house. Ivy has some good, really cutting lines this week, and she delivers them beautifully. She plays the villain well. She plays the villain so well.
She does. She's entertaining to watch.
And then Woody, when Ivy says, I'll see you in the gutter and myself 6 feet under, Woody's like, interesting possibility. Have you gotten any prognosis as it pertains to you being in that wheelchair? Basically, like asking her if she's gonna die soon.
Because that make his job easier.
And then that's when Ethan finally kind of stands up and is like, nobody's gonna tell you any information like that. You need to stop it right now. And so then Ethan's
So
like,
lame.
I'm still not convinced that you're a real attorney or licensed in this state. And what he says, doesn't matter what you think. All that matters is I'm going to win and Theresa's going to get what's owed to her. That's when Gwen like pulls her mom aside. This felt like they were just throwing Gwen a bone because she didn't have any lines, right? Because she's just standing there this entire time. She pulls her mom aside and just tells her, you know, you should give up, mother. You don't have a chance in court. And then she like brings up her motive to kill Julian, but it's like everybody had a motive to kill Julian. Everybody did. Everybody had a gun that night.
Yeah, everyone's equally guilty.
Yeah, so y'all can stop bringing that up because as if it is going to have any more weight on one person than the other. Every single person had a gun, was after Julian.
Yeah, the entire town is a suspect.
Yeah, but Rebecca's like, no, I deserve something, whatever. Who cares? It wasn't important. I just had it in my notes. Then Woody calls Ivy and Rebecca squatters. He's like, y'all need to start packing and get all your stuff out of here because my client will be moving in soon. And I'm sure she won't want the remnants of the squatters who've been living here for months in her house. He says, start packing, bitches. And he says, actually, you know what? That gives me an idea. We should collect back rent from these two for living in your house all these months without paying you and for basically squatting in your house all these months. And then that's when Ivy yells, that is enough. Get out. And Theresa turns to leave, right? Like, because she's so used to being thrown out. She's like, okay, yeah, I'm getting out. Oh. She turns to leave, and Woody kind of positions her back forward and says, we'll leave when we decide, not when you say. This is her house, not yours. Yes. And then Ethan tries to appeal to Theresa and says, asks her to put a stop to this and fire this lawyer, but she refuses. And she says, I stand by every word my attorney has said. This house belongs to me. And since the two of you, talking about Ivy and Rebecca, since the two of you had no problem throwing me out, I have no problem doing the same to you. That's when Rebecca lunges at Theresa, goes for her throat, and she like gets to her, is choking her. They manage to kind of pull them apart. Theresa starts to run. Rebecca runs after her. She catches her again. They are trying to jump Theresa, right? Yeah. Rebecca is on her. Woody's like, oh Lord, get off of my client. Get off. Back, you harlots. Get off of my client. Oh Lord. it was great. And Pilar, Ivy starts to kind of zoom in on her wheelchair to try to like get her lick in, and Pilar stops her short. And let me see what she says. Oh, Pilar cuts her off and yells, Ivy, I will hit you harder than any bolt of lightning. Woo! Because you know Ivy got struck by lightning. That's why she's in the wheelchair.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, so it's like she says, Ivy, I will hit you harder than any bolt of lightning. You go near my daughter. Oh,
you need yourself a full body cast.
Yeah. So, oh wait, I'm not done with this page. I thought I was. So Ethan and Woody finally break up this attack on Theresa because it's an attack. It's not even a fight. Theresa's not able to fight back. Like Rebecca is really giving her the business, and they finally break her up. or get her off of her. And Woody asks if they hurt her, and and she's like, no, I'm fine. He's like, you sure? Because I got some crutches. I got some crutches and a wheelchair in the car. It would be a real coup to our case if she did hurt you.
And even if like they didn't hurt her, the fact that they just attacked her unprovoked is just that's evidence within itself.
Yeah. So Pilar and Ethan kind of pull Theresa to the side and tell her to get rid of her lawyer, saying confrontation isn't the way to get what you want. And Ethan says he's not looking out for your best interest. He's just trying to make a quick buck. And then Woody's like, excuse me, why do you care? What is your relationship to in all of this? And so that's when Theresa explains that she was engaged to be married to Ethan. But I want to talk about the fact that Ethan says that Theresa should get rid of her lawyer, and saying confrontation isn't the way to get what you want. It's like, you should be saying it to your mother.
Exactly.
He did. You know what? To be fair, he has said that to her, basically. Let me give Ethan some credit. He has said that to her. But it's like, Theresa is doing this because of what they did to her.
Yeah, they backed her into a corner.
Exactly. And she came, you don't know this, but she came over to the house last week. She wanted to kind of squash this altogether. 2 times, actually. But the second time was the part when she saw Gwen and gave up altogether and was like, nah, fuck this. I'm gonna get what I want. But the first time she went in and she tried to talk to Ivy and Rebecca, they called her horrible names, told her they would never agree to give her anything. She really wanted to just come to a compromise, and they didn't believe that that's what she wanted. And they threw her out and told her that Ethan wanted nothing to do with her, and that he was working hard for her not to get any money. So that's how this all happened.
So now we got to do this the hard way.
Yeah, that was the precipitating event. So, and she explains to Woody what her relationship with Ethan was, and Woody says, "Oh, this is an injustice of rich, wealthy people taking advantage of poor people." And he's basically framing it as if Ethan took advantage of Theresa and left her high and dry, right? And pawned her off on Julian and just left her vulnerable. And Ethan is offended by that, because that's not what happened. That's not what happened. You can frame it that way, but that is not at all what happened.
That's not the real narrative.
Right. And so Ethan looks at Theresa and is like, tell him that's not true. Tell him that is not how our relationship really was. And she looks at him, she says, I don't know how our relationship was. I thought you loved me, and I thought that we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. And that's when Ivy interjects. He's like, you're making this out to be his fault, when all the lies that you told, it's your fault that the two of you aren't together, because you're a serial liar. And Ethan kind of quiets her and is like, Theresa, you know that the reason we can't be together is because you broke all my faith and trust in you when you lied to me multiple times. And Theresa says, all I know is I have to protect myself and my baby. I don't have anyone anymore. I'm completely alone. And Pilar goes, Theresa, you have your family. And Theresa says, yeah, and we barely get by as it is. And soon we'll have a new baby to take care of. And how will we afford that? And Ethan goes, I told you, we'll work something out for you and your baby. And he begs her to stop this lawsuit. And he says, let's just sort this out between us. You trust me to do that, don't you? No, I don't. Like, why should she trust you to do that?
Exactly. Why should she trust you to go to your mother, who obviously does not care about her in the slightest, to do any of that?
And what bothers me is Ethan is Ivy's attorney. Ethan is Ivy's lawyer. So Ivy can have a lawyer, but I can't?
That's so unfair.
It's disgusting. It's as an attorney, Ethan should know better. Like, I understand him saying or having like trepidations about this specific lawyer, but he should understand that Theresa in this situation does need legal counsel. Mm-hmm. Right? And so for him as a lawyer to be like, we should just work this out between ourselves, is unethical.
Yeah, actually. And I would understand if instead he was like, I don't want you to have this specific lawyer, let's get you a different lawyer. That would make, I would respect that a little bit more. But the fact that he wants her to have just zero legal representation at all is just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And on top of that, I don't trust him to do right by Theresa. I do believe that he wants to do right by Theresa. I don't believe he has the power to do right by Theresa. I don't
have the willpower.
I don't think he has the power to get Ivy to give her anything. I don't. I simply do not. And even if he did, it would probably take so much convincing and so much time. And any money that you take from Ivy is gonna come with strings. It's gonna come with just like it's like almost like petty money.
Yeah, and then
No.
by the time, she gets this supposed money with strings attached anyway, who knows how long she will have suffered because she didn't have any money. She might already have a baby by then, already might be, in a deep financial trouble.
Yeah, I
So
mean, she's
you're
pregnant
begging your
now.
mom to
You
be a
have
human being.
you have to go to the doctor. She already is going to start having medical bills right now, So,
Yeah. She can't
um,
afford to wait for you to like finish convincing your mother. Like that's not
yeah, exactly. So Ethan tells her, tell your attorney that you've changed your mind and that you want me to handle things. And Ethan says that to her, and Woody starts singing "Rockabye Baby" on the treetop, just like in the background, like to Theresa. And Theresa says to Ethan, he says, Ethan, she says, your main concern is your mother. You're looking after your mother's best interest. And I respect that. But I need someone to look after me and my baby. And that's why I hired an attorney. It's not personal. It's just business. And then Ethan says, I hope this won't come between us as friends. And she's like, I hope not too. Yeah, I'm with Theresa 100%.
Yeah, she needs somebody to fight for her because obviously Ethan won't.
Exactly. And like she said, he has Ivy's best interest at heart. He wants Ivy to get everything that Ivy wants and what he believes Ivy deserves.
Yeah.
And he wants to be able to get Theresa a few scraps if he can.
Yeah, how can she trust Ethan to have her best interest when there's obviously a conflict of interest,
Exactly. That's you hit the nail on the head. So after all of this hullabaloo, Ivy and Rebecca are angrily like ranting about Theresa and how she's a gold digger and a claim jumper and how they're not going to let her get away with it. And then Gwen tells them all to calm down and says, Theresa wouldn't have done all of this if you hadn't forced her hand by throwing her off the estate in the first place. Then Ethan comes in and also defends Theresa and doubles down on exactly what Gwen says. And he's like, she only did this because of what you said to her. So then Ivy says Theresa's a master manipulator and she's only out for herself, to which Rebecca agrees and says, this was funny. She's like, yeah, it's appalling how selfish some people can be, especially when they're not entitled to anything. Pause for comedic effect. There was just like a hush across the room. Everybody's like, pot, meat, kettle, right? Like, that sounds exactly like what you are doing, Rebecca, being very selfish when you're not entitled to anything.
Yeah, what claim do you have here?
What claim do you have here?
You're just an extra.
Basically, I don't know if you know this, but she and Julian got married, but her marriage to Julian was not legal because he was still married to Theresa.
Oh yeah, I do vaguely remember that. So yeah, she has no claim to anything.
Yeah, she really doesn't. It's just so funny every time she pipes up.
And I'm confused because like, okay, say Ivy, does become like the sole inheritor of everything that Julian has. What does Rebecca get in the situation? Like, have they like?
Nothing.
So why is she even like here?
Here's what the plan is. Ivy and Rebecca are basically working together to get rid of Theresa. But once Theresa's out of the picture, the two of them are going to do battle. That's what they have basically. They're basically kind of calling a truce for right now to get rid of Theresa because she's the biggest threat to both of them. And then once Theresa's out of the picture, then they can go head to head against one another.
Well, Rebecca's dumb because
Agreed.
She literally doesn't even have a leg to stand on in court. So I don't know how she thinks she's gonna legally be able to be like, well, actually, I know I was just on her side a second ago, but I'm actually the real one and only wife, Julian Crane. But I don't know, whatever. It's passions.
Yeah, exactly. It's passions. And so after all that, Ethan says that he believes that Theresa is entitled to some sort of support. Ivy says, I vote for welfare. And Ethan says, well, we need to make arrangements to provide for her and the baby. And Ivy yells, never, never. See, this is what I'm saying. I don't know why Ethan thinks that he'll be able to do anything he thinks his mom is reasonable, but Ethan is such a dunderhead, right? Your mother, how do you not know that this lady, she drove her car into the church to stop your wedding? She's not a reasonable lady.
No.
Right? She doesn't make rational decisions.
Yeah.
She kept your real paternity from you for 25 fucking years. And the only reason it even came out is because it got leaked to a tabloid. She was never going to tell you. She's not a rational lady.
Yeah.
And she has no problem doing unscrupulous things. And you know that. You know that for a fact, just based on the few things that you know about that have happened in the last year or so.
Yeah, you've experienced this firsthand. You've watched your entire life basically fall apart.
He don't even know that she... Yeah, because of what she did, exactly. He don't even know that she drugged Whitney and shit. He don't even know that stuff. So
it probably still wouldn't change his mind. He would probably still think that he'd be like, no, she's good. I can change her. I can fix her.
She didn't mean it like that. You're taking it out of context. Yeah. So let me see. Where am I in my notes? Okay. Woody, at this point, questions Theresa and questions her motives, realizing he has deduced that Theresa's doing all of this because she's still in love with Ethan and wants to get him back. And Theresa, she says, everything I say to you is confidential, right? He says, yep, protected through attorney-client privilege. She says, you're right. I don't care about the money. He almost has a heart attack. Like, oh, don't say that. Don't say, what do you mean you don't care about the money? Never say those words.
He could just see it dissolving before his eyes.
Yeah, he's like, no, don't say that. But she's like, it's true. I don't care about the money. I just want to get Ethan back. If this is the way to get Ethan back, this is how I'm going to do it. And he and Pilar are both confused about how this plan is supposed to work in her favor to get Ethan back. They're both confused
as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, I have now realized, well, I guess I realized it a week or so ago. This plan was never to get Ethan back. Theresa thinks it's a plan to get Ethan back, but it's Zombie Charity's plan to just like wreak havoc and Harmony.
Yeah, she's acting out Zombie Charity's will.
Yeah, and so Theresa somehow heard the plan and somehow believes that it'll work. And we don't know all the steps, so maybe once I hear and see all the steps, I'll understand it. But it seems that maybe she thinks once she has the Crane money and power that Ethan will want to be with her again. But that doesn't make any sense.
Well, everything she hears passes through a filter of like Ethan love. So, you know, it's just everything just had to connect to her getting Ethan again.
Yeah, I guess it connects for her. For me, it is very disconnected.
For me, it had no for me, I feel like it would have the opposite effect. But you know,
exactly, whatever. That's what I would think. But who knows? Maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll all work out. So
yeah, finds a way.
So yeah, she explains she's not doing it for the money. And she just wants to get Ethan back, and she knows that deep down Ethan still loves her and wants to marry her, and all she has to do is get him back, and the rest will take care of itself. So Pilar and Theresa go home. Woody goes back to his office that's in shambles. Hopefully he'll clean up.
I hope so. He needs to vacuum.
Hopefully he put some boxes away. My God. So Pilar, Theresa, and Whitney all go back to Theresa's house or Pilar's house. And Pilar and Whitney implored Theresa to put a stop to all of this, but of course she's not going to do that. She says that fortune is going to change our lives, mama. And Pilar says that money is evil and our family will be destroyed, Teresita. Why don't you understand?
All money is evil. Grow up.
But the thing is, the money itself is not evil. This is what we were talking about last week. The money itself is not evil. It's about what you do with the money. And it's also about how you get the money. And how Theresa gets this money there's nothing evil about her getting what is actually due to her.
That's true. And they're doing this in a very legal, you know, not underhanded way at all. Also, Pilar, if y'all get this money, you won't have to be a glorified maid anymore.
Listen,
you could just live out your life.
She must love that job. I don't get it because I don't know why she's still working there after all that Ivy and Julian have like done to her, and Rebecca. She works at the mansion, and that's another thing. That's something that was brought up last week about her talking so bad about the Crane money is evil, it's blood money, is bad money. Baby, that's your paycheck. That's how you pay your rent or your mortgage. That's how you pay your bills. You pay your bills in blood money, and now all of a sudden it's bad to get
when it's just being handed to you.
Yeah, and you don't have to go in there and debase yourself every day in their house.
Exactly. Like, why are you addicted to this like abuse?
She's addicted to the struggle. She's addicted to the struggle. Pilar is addicted to the fucking struggle. I unlocked it.
I guess she believes in some weird way that like going through this like makes her like, I don't know, a better person.
She thinks it somehow makes her more pious to like work really, really hard and have nothing to show for it. And it's like this pure holy way of living, I guess. I don't know. But again, you're still working for evil people and taking their money.
Exactly.
So how much better than them are you?
Honestly, the most morally right thing to do is to just take all these people's money, because obviously they're not using it correctly. You could use the money and you could do, you know, great things with it. You could give it to charity. Not charity the person, but you know what I mean. She don't need that money. Talking about real charity.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what Theresa said. She's like, I could use this money to do great things, right? We can. That's what I want to do with this money. I want to use it to take care of my family, but then I also want to use it to like help other people. And we get there a little bit later. So let's talk about when Luis shows up into the house, because Pilar is questioning Theresa about why she thinks that Ethan will come back to her if she does this, and Theresa just says, "You just have to trust me." And Luis walks in on this conversation and is like, what the hell is going on? What are you talking about? You're trying to get back together with Ethan? What? You're getting some cream money? What are you doing? What's going on? So Pilar brings him up to speed on all that's going on about the lawyer and how they went over to the house and all of that. And he says to her, well, I'm going to put a stop to this. He goes get the phone. He's like, I'm going to fire your lawyer. You don't have the authority to do that. He gets on I like Luis. I really do. But this whole like paternalistic idea of himself that he has when it comes to like the family in general. One, I don't care if you had to grow up at an early age because your dad left and you had to become, quote, the man of the house or whatever. You are not Theresa's father. And even if you were, she's a grown woman who gets to make her own choices. And Theresa says as much. But it irritates me how much Luis thinks that, how much power Luis seems to think he has in this household. And it's like, you are just another one of Pilar's children.
Exactly.
Truly.
And then on top of that, the other thing, first of all, like you said, he thinks he has so much power over Theresa. And second of all, he didn't even like get the whole picture of what was happening. Like, he's not even informed. He was just gonna like do something impulsively, you know, without even understanding like the whole context of what was going on, which would be important, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, he grabs the phone, says he's gonna call and fire her lawyer. Theresa takes the phone, says, I know what I'm doing. You can't stop me. I'm grown and I have a right to look after myself and my baby. Mm-hmm. And she says, and for once in my life, I'm being honest and upfront. I'm not doing anything underhanded. I'm being honest and upfront about everything. And then Pilar notes, well, you're not being upfront about everything because Ethan doesn't know that you're trying to do this to get him back. And Theresa says, I don't want to waste any energy fighting with y'all. I'm too tired. I'm trying, like, there's a baby sucking the life out of me. And I'm trying to fight for us to have a better life. And y'all are fighting with me about it. And you just want to struggle for the rest of your lives for some reason when we have this opportunity right here
stupid
to move up in the world a little bit. It is so stupid. It is so stupid. Here's my thing. Do I think that Theresa should be necessarily going after absolutely everything? No. Do I understand why she's doing that? Yes. Because that part is really out of spite. Theresa never really she's already said she doesn't really want the money. She doesn't care about the money and the power. She really just wants Ethan back. But if she can't have Ethan, she might as well have the money. Right?
Exactly.
Right?
She'll at least be secure that way.
Right. But do I agree that she should be trying to get everything? Not particularly. But if Ivy spoke to me the way that Ivy spoke to her, would I be doing the exact same thing? Yes, I would.
I'd be mad enough to take everything they got because obviously they don't deserve it.
Yeah. Yes, I would. I would do it. I would do it out of spite. Mm-hmm. If I can take everything, I'm gonna get 100%, all of it. Exactly. So she tells them she doesn't have the energy to fight with them. She says the money is gonna be good for all of us and good for you're gonna get this money and you're gonna like it, basically. And then she says, I gotta do what I gotta do, and then she and Whitney leave. So later on, we're almost to the end of this. Later on, Chad and Ethan are chopping it up at the book cafe, just kind of recapping the whole Theresa situation. Ethan's conflicted on the situation. Chad then asks him if he wants to get back together with Theresa. And Ethan, he thinks about it for a second, but he says, I do have feelings for her, but I can't get back together with her, right? Because she lied to me over and over again. Fair enough. Then Chad then tries to talk to Ethan about his situation with Whitney. And then he talks about, like, he's sitting there with his laptop. He's sitting there with his laptop and he's like, Ethan's like, what are you working on there? And he's like, oh, I'm just working on some music that I'm producing and with this new music program, this new production program. Come listen to it. Then Ethan goes over. We see like the screen of his laptop. The squares on the screen, like, it's not even MIDI files. It's not audio files. I don't know what these blocks on the screen were. It did not look like any production software I've ever seen. And then he plays the music, and I thought, don't quit your day job, Chad.
It's not worth it.
This music was like, I don't know. Have you ever heard Enya? You have never heard Enya. But it's like, oh, well, you know the song, who may know where the wind blows,
I have heard that, yeah.
Only time. It was kind of like Enya music, but far less melodic, right? Like less melody. It wasn't cute at all. But and Ethan's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, wow.
Of course he's
And
gonna think it's
as
cool.
Chad's like really excited about like making music and about like the process and everything. He's trying to talk to his friend about it. And Ethan is like zoned out, like not listening to him. It's like, okay, Chad will listen to you rant on and on and on about Theresa on end, but you can't listen to this man for a couple of minutes talk about his music that is really important to him. But Ethan starts to zone out, like he sees a picture of him and Theresa on the wall in the book cafe, and then he like has like memories of them having good times, and then he sees Theresa out the window. And Chad realizes that Ethan has not been listening to him at all. It's like, oh, I see. So Ethan then says, Theresa is the key. Chad is just as confused as I am, because I was like, what is he talking about? Theresa is the key.
Yeah.
So outside the book cafe, Theresa is talking with Whitney about her whole situation, and Whitney gives her usual speech. You need to give this up. You shouldn't be taking advice from a demon in hell. Yada, yada, yada. Same old, right?
Same old story again and again.
This is when Ethan comes out and says to Theresa, there's something we have to do together. Okay.
What does that mean?
He says, we have to be together. Why would he use these words? Why would he use these words if he didn't mean them?
Yeah, like what other like meaning is there for that?
Who wrote this bullshit? And so she says, you mean it? You want us to be together? And he says, that's the only way it's going to work. Then he goes, I want to help Chad, and you're the only one who can help me do it. I hate him.
Like, why would you get her hopes up like that?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
I don't care what anybody says. I know he's dumb, but that just felt malicious. Like,
it felt malicious. I agree. It felt malicious. It felt malicious because you're an attorney and you can't choose your words more carefully. You don't choose your words more carefully.
Yeah, like what kind of attorney are you supposed to be?
Yeah.
I really is about to lose with you.
Yeah, she really is about to lose with him as her lawyer. I would never want him to be my attorney. I know I'm about to lose.
Yeah, I'd be better off representing myself.
Yeah. They say a person who represents themselves has a fool for a client, but I think if you let Ethan represent you, you also have a fool for an attorney.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, let's see. Where am I in my notes? He says, oh yeah. He then realizes that she has misunderstood what he was trying to say, right? And he explains that he should have been more, I'm sorry, I should have been more clear. Yeah, you should have been, jackass.
Yeah.
And that's when Chad comes out and Ethan tells Chad, the Cranes have a state-of-the-art recording studio right here in town, right here in Harmony, that they never use. And he says, and I'm not a Crane, but my mother is, and maybe Theresa is, and all we have to do is get permission and you can use the recording studio. And so Ethan asks Theresa, like, is it okay if Chad uses the recording studio? And Teresa's like, sure, of course. And then later he calls his mom. She says yes. Now, I want to note, at one point Chad and Ethan discuss why Julian bought this recording studio.
Yeah, because I'm confused.
Yeah, they discuss, and they don't know. Ethan says, I don't know why he bought the studio and we just never use it. It just sits empty. But I'm pretty sure I know why he bought the recording studio. He bought that studio for Eve, because when he and Eve were together, Eve was like a singer and was like I think she might have like cut that demo tape at that studio. Then Ethan explains, because Chad's like, well, if it's been there for a long time, then the equipment's probably all out of date, not of use, and like not any good.
Better than that like unknown app that you were using.
Hello. But Ethan says to him, oh, that's the great part. The Cranes signed a contract with a recording engineer, and once a year he comes in and he updates the studio with brand new equipment. Why?
The studio he doesn't use.
What kind of contract is this?
You're just bleeding money for no reason. Unless it was like a one-time purchase and they just come and update it for free.
And there's no studio in the world that needs new equipment, brand new equipment, fresh new equipment every single year. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's weird. The writers of Passions, they seem to know very little about a whole lot of like things.
Yeah.
Like a whole lot of fields.
Yeah, they it's like they do zero research at all. And I guess the details don't really matter to most people, but they matter to me because why would you have somebody come in every single year and re-equip this studio that you never use?
Exactly. Like maybe in a weird way, Julian like thought that maybe he was like closer to Eve if you like
Yeah,
kept
maybe.
updating the studio that no one uses.
Yeah, maybe it was like one day she'll come back and one day we'll be together, and I don't know, but I don't know.
Because he still like had like a few like scraps of emotion for her, didn't he, or something?
Here's the thing: we learn later that Julian, right now in the story, based on what we've heard about what happened between Julian and Eve, it seems that Eve was in love with Julian, but she felt that he wasn't in love with her because he ended up abandoning her after she got pregnant, had her baby, and lost her baby. So she hates him for all of that. But later on, we do learn that Julian like had like legitimate feelings and was in love with Eve as well. We just haven't heard that yet. So yeah, I do think this is probably like his like sweet gesture of like holding on to that time in his life, with Eve. So I don't know. It's kind of when you kind of think about it, it's kind of sweet.
Yeah, the updating every year though, that's a little excessive.
Nuts,
like
ridiculous.
the idea of it is like, okay, I see where you're coming from, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, Ethan asks Theresa if the judge grants her status as Mrs. Crane, will she let him use it? She says, of course. Chad is overjoyed. Ethan calls his mom for permission. She agrees. And then Theresa turns to Whitney because Chad is so excited. And I was so happy to see him so excited because remember, Chad was like going to go to New York to try and get his music career started. But now he can stay in Harmony because he has access to a studio. He might as well just stay here if he has free access, right? To top of the line equipment. And so Theresa tells Whitney, look, Whitney, this is my goal, to help people with the Crane money and power. But Whitney isn't listening to her. She's just like kind of zoned out. And Theresa accuses her of, not accuses, that's not the right word, but Theresa basically says to Whitney, oh, I know what's going on. Now that Chad is staying in Harmony, you have to face the fact that you've been lying to yourself every day. And Whitney denies this, saying, I don't want a career in music and I am not in love with Chad, basically. That's what she was saying she was lying to herself about. There has been conversation around Whitney truly wanting to be a singer but denying that part of herself because of her parents and how her dad wants her to be a tennis star, and like her mom is like very much against the music industry, even though she doesn't know why. And just like conversation around her and Chad, it's not important because we haven't really talked about them that much this week. Like this was the little bit we had of them. But when Theresa does say this, Whitney kind of turns to her sharply and says, who are you to be giving me advice on how to live my life? You're getting plans on how to get Ethan back from a demon in hell. And Theresa says, this is when Theresa says to her, actually, I think I found a way around Julian's plan. And so she says, I think I can turn the tables. She's like whispering it to her. And there's like, they're in the book cafe at this point and it's just them for some reason. She says, I think I can turn the tables on Julian at the end, or the demon at the end of the plan. She says, I can trick the demon. I can turn the tables on hell. And at that very moment, the lights go out and two giant, like glowing yellow cat eyes are glowing in the dark. And Whitney says, you can't trick the demon. It's here and it's going to take you back to hell. And they're like hugging each other scared. And that's it for them this week. You got anything to add to that?
No, I feel like you painted a very vivid picture of what happened at the end there. I don't think I could top that. Although, well, actually, there is one thing. When you first brought up the part with Ethan and Chad and Ethan, like, kind of being a bad friend and, like, zoning out or whatever, I will say, I will take back a little bit what I was thinking about him being a bad friend, because even though he was not listening to Chad at all, he did bring up, like, the music studio thing. So, I guess in a way he kind of, like, he was kind of listening. Like, he kind of does care a little bit. I guess he was like, though, listen, for me to be listening to your music, you're going to need some professional tools, because that sounded terrible. You don't have to earn that privilege.
You are so funny. All right, so let's talk about. I can't remember what order I told you we were going to do this in. Did I say we would do Magic and Sheridan and Luis last?
I think you said Yeah, I think magic was next.
All right, let's do magic then. And this will be kind of short. There wasn't a whole lot here. I only have 2 pages of magic notes. Not even a page and a half. All right. Yeah. All right. So we pick up with Tabitha and Timmy, where Tabitha is explaining to Timmy, who wants to get rid of zombie Charity by using the Book of Spells, because remember, first Timmy saw a hologram of the real Charity from that magic scroll, and Charity was telling him that the only way to save her is with the Book of Spells. And then Faith, who is Grace's long lost dead twin sister, appeared to him in the fire and told him the same thing. You got to help Charity by using the Book of Spells. Well, Tabitha is explaining to Timmy at this point that getting rid of the zombie with using the Book of Spells will kill the real Charity. So I mean, they're telling them, the good people are telling him to use the book, but Tabitha, who we know as like not so good of a person, right? Like an evil entity, is telling him the opposite. So I'm not sure who to believe, but typically when Tabitha says something, it's canon, right? Like when typically Tabitha, her whole existence in this show is to tell us facts about the world that they live in and the magic within it, and that she's the one with all the knowledge of how the magic works. So I do think here's what I believe. I believe that using the Book of Spells generally to kill the zombie would kill Charity. However, I think there's a caveat where Timmy will be able to give his life for Charity. I'm pretty sure that's how this is going to work out. Yeah.
Okay, so in most scenarios, Tabitha will be right, but she hasn't accounted for the fact that there's like an option where you can sacrifice yourself.
Basically, I think I could be wrong, but based on the way they have been alluding to Timmy's death, I think that's what it is.
I hope Timmy doesn't actually die. I like Timmy. I don't like the silence. I'm scared.
Oh no!
The silence is so loud. Is he gonna die for real?
Yeah, Timmy dies for real. That actor actually died in real life.
Did he die around that time?
What? Listen to this. It's crazy.
Oh, is it super tragic?
So they were basically writing him out of the show, but it was like in soap operas you can be written out of the show and come back to life, right? But he had a surgery coming up. That actor had a surgery, and there was talk that there may be like complications and stuff, and he might not be able to come back to work very quickly or whatever, and that something might happen. So they wrote this storyline where they were going to write him off the show and he dies. Well, the day that the episode where he actually dies in the episode, that actor died in real life.
That's so sad. I remember you told me like that he passed away, but I was thinking, well, this soap opera is like ancient, so like he may have died like later on, like right. But I didn't think it was like at that exact time. That's so sad.
Yeah,
Timmy.
It sucks. And if I'm gonna be honest, like after the loss of Timmy in the show, to me, like there's a very clear divide in my mind between like Timmy pre-Timmy's death and after Timmy's death, and like what the show was like for me, especially in the magic stuff. He was very much missed.
Yeah. Because I love, like, as much as, like, Tabitha's, like, I guess, like, evil, obviously. I do really love their dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tabitha's not evil. Tabitha's good, but she's fighting it. At this point, Tabitha's fighting her good.
Oh, does she have, like, a redemption arc? Does she actually turn good?
Tabitha definitely gets a redemption arc, yeah.
Oh, I love that for her. Aw, okay, yeah. I can kind of see it, because honestly, this is what I will say. Over the course of these 5 episodes, it didn't even really seem like Tabitha was like much of like a bad force. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, she's still like on the side of evil or whatever, but she was mostly just trying to save Timmy.
The thing about Tabitha is like, she's always going to be kind of like mischievous, right? She's more at the beginning of the show, she's very firmly evil, right? As the show wears on, I feel like Timmy really wears off on her and really kind of changes her heart. And she remains mischievous throughout the show, but it ceases to be like straight up evil.
Yeah, she's not trying to like kill everybody anymore. Okay, well, she's still. Well, I don't. Mischief. You and me have 2 different definitions of mischievous. Yeah, because mischievous is like, for me, it's like, yeah, you're causing a little mayhem, but it's nothing like lethal.
I think that's what it is though, because it never is lethal. She's. As what does a zombie call her? A washed up something?
Yeah, like a second rate washed
calls
up.
her a Girl Scout troop leader or some shit.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I will say that her hit rate is like 2%.
Yeah, less than. Less than at the in the show that we've seen. We hear her talk a lot of big game about all the things she's done, but we haven't seen much. She did kill Faith. At the beginning of the show, she murdered a bunch of people. Like at the beginning of the show, there was a tax guy who showed up who ended up murdered. She murdered Faith. There was a gas station attendant who she basically left him in flames, so he's probably dead. And we also saw she's like a serial killer. She has like the shoes of every person she ever like sent down into the basement to their demise. So she has like a collection of shoes of people that she's killed. Tabitha is a murderer for sure. But since the show, it's not so much, right? It's been a long time since we've seen her actually kill anybody. The last person she killed was Faith, and that was a long, long time ago. So yeah, mischievous.
Mischievous, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
go with that.
It's a little mischief here and there. So anyway, we still at the top of these notes. Let's get into the magic. So Tabitha's explaining to Timmy that if he gets rid of zombie Charity using the Book of Spells, that the real Charity will also be killed. Meanwhile, Kay has made her way into Tabitha's house and found the Book of Spells herself because she's trying to get rid of this zombie because this zombie has gone fully and completely off the rails. It's trying to fuck her man. So she's like, no, you shall not pass. And so she finds the Book of Spells. And she finds the right spell, and it says that she needs some music and some candles. So she finds a goth CD. She's like, this must be Timmy's. And she lights 2 candles. She starts to recite this spell. And it goes, forces of darkness, forces of evil, reclaim what is yours. Her deeds on earth are done. Bring her back to your home. What a horrible spell. Shouldn't it rhyme?
It should rhyme or at least have like some kind of rhythm to it or something. Like
iambic pentameter or something like that. But that's not what it. Forces of darkness, forces of evil, reclaim what is yours. Her deeds on earth are done. Bring her back to your home.
Or like if it wasn't gonna rhyme, then it should have been in like Latin or something.
Oh yeah,
that would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool. That's what they should do. They should have some more like spells in different languages.
Because that makes it sound more like magical. Because for some reason Latin is just the magic language.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so she repeats the spell several times, and then she realizes she forgot to play the music, so she puts the music on. And that's when Timmy and Tabitha hear the music and like, what the hell's going on? And they realize what she's doing. And meanwhile, Miguel and Charity are over at the Bennett home, and Miguel questions Charity about if she's been having like a premonition, because she said something last week about like, I wouldn't be so sure that Luis and Sheridan aren't going to see each other again, or that Sheridan is dead. I think that's what it was. I wouldn't be so sure that Sheridan's dead. And so Miguel's like questioning her about that, and he asked if she was having a premonition. She's like, actually, yes. And she says she sees them on an island in Bermuda and that they're in lots of pain. And Miguel gets really mad at her about this vision, saying that can't your vision can't possibly be true. Sheridan is dead. But you're the one who brought it up.
Yeah,
you're the one who brought it up and asked me about it. And to Zombie Charity's credit, she tried not to tell him anything about it, right? Like she tried to kind of play it off.
Yeah.
But then she told him what the vision is. And
why are you so mad at the possibility of like Sheridan still being alive?
Yeah, Miguel is weird.
Shouldn't he be happy about that? Like, oh, that gives me hope. Maybe
he's like worried that his brother's gonna get hurt again. Girl, honestly, this was very confusing to me. I was confused about why this was in there in the first place. I don't understand, because they don't have really anything to do with Sheridan and Louise. It doesn't make any sense. But I'm just telling you, I'm just reporting the facts. I'm just reporting what was.
You're just the messenger.
What I saw. So at that point, the zombie starts to apologize for upsetting him, and then she kisses him very passionately to kind of make it up to him. Meanwhile, Kay is like chanting that spell, and Zombie, we see her hand on Miguel's back, because they're like, arms around each other, embracing. We see her hand disappear. And I know, so Kay's spell seems to be working. And then she loses her arm completely, and she realizes that she like is disappearing, and she quickly rushes out to Tabitha's house because she realizes somebody's trying to get rid of her, and she thinks that it's Timmy or Tabitha. But before she gets over there, she gets out of the house and she loses her legs, and she just falls. She's just a torso at this point, right? And she falls flat, and then she recites a spell to like get her out of there. and she floats into the house. And when she floats in, she immediately starts to attack Tabitha and Timmy, who are like standing in the entryway. She immediately starts to attack them with like her little lightning eyes. And they tell her, it's not us, it's Kay. Kay's the one who's chanting the spell. And so then she floats into the living room and sees Kay and tells her, you will pay for what you have done. And the whole house starts to like shake. And there's like a tornado wind blowing all objects around the room. And Zombie just starts yelling at Kay, chant the anti-spell, Kay. Chant the anti-spell, Kay. That also is a contender for the episode title. Chant the
that's a
episode.
good one too.
Oh, I said chant the episode. Chant the anti-spell, Kay. Kay refuses, and they go back and forth. Kay says, I created you to help me get Miguel, not so you can take him away from me. And Zombie says, if you destroy me, I'll take him away from you anyway. She says, I'll take him to hell with me. I'll take him back to hell with me. So that forces Kay to chant the anti-spell. If I were Kay, I don't think I don't think I would have believed her. How are you going to take him back to hell with you?
If you're dead and gone.
Exactly.
You're not going to have time.
Because the way if you destroy me, I'll take him back to hell with me. No, how? Because I've destroyed you. How would you be able to do that? I'm not chanting anti-spell.
It was a bluff.
Go to hell, actually.
Literally.
Quite literally. And so Kay does can't the spell. She chants the anti-spell, and Zombie goes back to normal, right? She gets her arms and her legs back. Convenient. It was convenient to have the anti-spell right there in the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a nice thing to have if you're gonna do a spell. You know, it's interesting though. When Kay turned herself into that panther, she chanted a spell and she turned herself into a panther. She couldn't figure out how to get herself back. This is the first I've heard of an anti-spell in this book.
Maybe it's because this spell is like so powerful. The spell masters were like, yeah, this one needs like an anti-spell. Like that's very easily
Why would you need an anti-spell for a spell that sends demons to hell? Right?
You send the wrong demon.
Why would you need
like, I didn't mean to send you.
But like the spell when she turned herself into Charity and like created clones of herself, she couldn't find an anti-spell for that. It just had to wear off. Like she has cast multiple spells from this book that have gone awry every single time for her. And every single time she's like, I have to find a spell to reverse it. I have to find a spell to reverse it. But it seemed like this one, there was the spell and the anti-spell all on the same page because she just picked up the book and did it.
Yeah, that is a little too convenient. Like, why would that one spell have an anti-spell? Because, see, I was under the impression that all of the spells had anti-spells because this is the first spell I've seen. You know, I haven't, been on the podcast in a while, so I haven't seen a lot of these magical episodes, so... Yeah. That is weird.
Yeah, I just hate the inconsistency myself. It just irritates me.
Like they should either all have anti-spells or none of them should have anti-spells. Or if one of them does have an anti-spell, then there should be a expressed reason why this specific one has an anti-spell.
I agree with you, Lanaya. Going on. So Zombie takes the book, gives it to Tabitha to hide again. Because she had hidden it and it had like floated out. It takes care of itself. So she gives it to Tabitha to hide, and then Zombie threatens Kay, saying that if you try that again, I will destroy Miguel and your entire family. And that's when Miguel enters, asking why Charity ran off, and then Kay steps in, saying she came to find me, and Charity cuts her off and says, yeah, I needed Kay to calm me down because after seeing how worried you were about me, I felt so bad, and I need to be calmed down. Whatever, it's stupid, who cares? Miguel is confused, as he should be, because this doesn't make any damn sense.
Yeah, what you mean you was all worked up, but we was having a good time, and you just ran off?
And then he's like, just tell me the truth. What's going on? And then she tells him some convoluted nonsense about Sheridan and the visions and how she finally just says, I love you, Miguel. And of course, that's like the perfect thing for him to like shut down, right? Like all he needs is for her to be like, I love you, Miguel. And then he's like, oh, okay.
His brain just melts.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, it's already melted. Miguel is part of the smooth brain gang. Him and Ethan, and who else has a smooth brain? No wrinkles.
Hank?
Oof, for sure. Sam. Sam has a little bit of a brain.
There's a few wrinkles in there.
If he only had a brain. If they only had a brain. They do have brains that just don't have nothing in them. So anyway, yeah, she says, I love you, Miguel. And he's like, and they hug each other, and he's like, okay, fine. Meanwhile, Timmy takes the book of spells from Tabitha and runs off because he's like, gotcha, because he had been looking for it and now he has found it. She chases him around, gets the book back, and then she takes the book and is looking for like a good hiding place for it. And that's when the scroll appears to her and says, "Behold, your Timmy's future." And then it projects an image of Timmy lying lifeless. And the scroll explains to Tabitha that this is what's going to happen to Timmy if he tries to use the Book of Spells again. And so she then goes around hiding the book over and over again, but the image on the scroll never changes. And she just decides, you know what, I'm going to burn this book. That'll keep him from being able to get to it. Then he will not die. She's very, very, very worried about him dying.
This was like a scene where I was like, oh, I feel, bad. But the scroll itself was so funny. Like, she would hide it. She'd be like, why hasn't his future changed? And then the scroll is like, you think that's a good enough hiding spot? You need to go try again. You've got to do better than that.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Yeah, so she burns it. It was funny. She burns it. She thinks that's that. Like, I didn't want to do it, but it had to be done. So the book is in the fire, but it just it's on fire itself. It's flaming, and it floats out of the fire, and it extinguishes itself. And that's really all we see with the book for right now. Upstairs, Zombie Charity's like playing around with like these weird dolls that she made of all the citizens in Harmony. It's not important. She's just like talking about how she's gonna like wreak havoc on their different lives and what she's gonna do and how. And then Tabitha comes in to tell the zombie that she destroyed the book, and then Zombie taunts Tabitha for loving Timmy. She's like, you burned the book, huh? All because you love Timmy. You would get rid of such a powerful tool just to save that little imp. And Timmy at this point has decided to go back to the cave to visit the real Charity, basically, and see if he could maybe save her that way. But he can't get in, so he goes back to find the spell book. When he asked Tabitha where the book is, because he finally is like putting his foot down with her. He's like, give me the spell book. I have to do something for Charity. She tells him, I threw it in the fireplace. Timmy's devastated. He's like, how could Tabitha do that when you knew that was Timmy's only chance of saving Charity? And Charity will die without the Book of Spells. And Tabitha is reluctant to explain to him that she did it because she was trying to save his life. But the zombie explains that in no uncertain terms. She's like, don't you get it? She burned the book to save your stupid life. And he says, well, Tabitha said no self-respecting witch can call herself a witch without a Book of Spells. And Zombie says, she loves you more than the witchcraft. She's a loser. She's a loser as a bad guy. She's a washed up, good for nothing. So that's basically where we ended for the week. At one point, the Book of Spells does float around the house, and Zombie is gives a status report to the friends in the basement. But that's pretty much the end of the week for Tabitha and Timmy and Zombie Charity and what's going on with them. You have anything to add?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered everything.
Okay, well, last and certainly least.
Honestly, you're right. This is like the most boring part, honestly.
I think I've said that every week when we get to the Sheridan and Louise story. Last and certainly least.
Because it's just a bunch of nothing. Like,
yeah. Give me a second.
No good quips. No good action. No heart. No nothing. Just Brian.
I hate him. I cannot stand that man. I think he might be the character I like the least on the show.
If I'm trying to think, even entertaining.
Yeah, he doesn't even have any good jokes.
Nothing. He's just some annoying guy.
Yeah, he's
just trying to get in the way of Diane and remembering
Diana, girl.
I don't know why I keep saying Diane. Because it says that in my notes too. I don't know. I just keep forgetting the A.
Diana. Because basically, you got to remember that she used to be Sheridan and Princess Diana were best friends, and that's where this name is coming from. It's like it was the first name that came to her mind was Diana.
Yeah, I gotta remember that. I don't know why I keep saying Diane. I might honestly just say Sheridan because I feel like I'm gonna just keep messing up.
That's okay. I always say Diana because to me, this lady is not Sheridan. This lady is Diana. She's so annoying. Diana is very, very annoying. I'm sick of her.
I like Sheridan way more.
I like Sheridan way more than I like Diana. Diana's annoying. She wasn't that annoying this week, but the last couple of weeks she has been very annoying. So let's talk about what's going on. Let's start in Harmony. At the Lobster Shack, baby. Lobster Shack, baby. Lobster Shack, baby. Lobster Shack. Lobster Shack, baby. Lobster Shack. Okay, so Luis, Beth, Hank, and Maddie, was that girl's name?
Yeah, I think her name was Maddie.
Yeah, are all on like a double date at the lobster shack. And there's this Bermuda contest. Remember, whoever gets the special lobster wins a trip for two, all inclusive, to Bermuda. Hearing about this contest gives Luis bad memories of Bermuda. He's like, I sure hope it's not me.
Well, buddy.
But he pretends to be fine with everything, and he's trying to enjoy his date with Beth, and they start telling an embarrassing story about Hank and lobster trapping, and where he had a lobster on his hand, but also there was a lobster clamped onto his butt too. Ha 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 ha! I don't know. It was like whatever. They were telling this story, and then at one point, Luis decides to step out for some air. Oh my god. Luis decides to step out of the restaurant to get some air. And when he gets out there, there's two random teenagers doing a tango right outside the restaurant, just right out in front. And of course, he gets a memory of him and Sheridan doing a tango, but doing this, the exact same thing, dancing out front of the lobster shack, which why would you be doing that? When were you dancing out front of the lobster shack?
Yeah, like it's so weird. Like I would never think to walk past like an Olive Garden and just see like two people just dancing in the parking lot. That's so weird.
Not even in the parking lot though. They were like out front in the front entryway.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's so odd.
Maybe there's like, you know what? Maybe it's like a thing. Kind of like the love noodle. Like maybe like if a couple dances in front of the lobster shack, that'll like ensure that the relationship last a long time.
I love your callback to the love noodle. Yeah, I mean maybe, but these two kids stop and are like, "Oh man, Luis, sorry, we didn't mean to bother you, and we're just practicing for the prom. We want to be the best two dancers at the prom." So they are just literally just rehearsing for their prom, which is whatever. But yeah, they're rehearsing a choreographed dance for their prom in front of the lobster shack. These kids are weird.
It's good luck.
I may be. Good luck. One of the town superstitions.
Yeah.
So this is when Hank comes out to give Luis a hard time about grieving Sheridan. I cannot stand Hank either. He's just, oh, are you out here thinking about Sheridan again?
How dare you think about your dead fiance?
Yeah. So Luis says, oh, no, I mean, yeah, I was thinking about Sheridan, but I'm trying to have a good time. Don't worry about me. Hank goes back inside to the restaurant and realizes that he's the one who got the special lobster plate. So apparently there's like an envelope under the plate that says like you won or something like that. And so he realizes that he himself, Hank, was the one that won, and he contemplates switching plates with Luis's. So when Luis comes back in, the waiter is like, "All right, our lobster contest is ready to begin." And Luis is like, "I sure hope it's not me." And they go around the entire restaurant, flipping over people's plates. Nobody has won. They get to Luis and Hank's table. This is the last table. They flip over every single plate, and the very last one is Luis's. Hank has, in fact, switched their plates. Luis wins the prize to go to Bermuda. Luis immediately says, "I don't want it. I don't want to go to Bermuda."
I can't exactly blame him.
Me either. And for some reason, I don't know why Hank thinks if Luis goes back to Bermuda, that it'll help him move on with his life. He's like, you got to go back there and face your demons and face your past so that you can move on with your life. Why?
And it's not like Bermuda is a place that he has to go to a lot, Like, he could very well live his entire life and never go back to this tiny island. Like,
yeah, you make a good point. Like, Harmony is the place where their love began and grew. This Harmony itself, there's a lot of places in Harmony that I imagine he would have to like visit and get used to going there. And,
yeah, that would be valid.
Yeah, and that way face those things so that he can go to those places without constantly being like sad and grieving.
Exactly.
But like you said, Bermuda, he's never even going to go to Bermuda again. If he doesn't have to go there ever again if he doesn't want to, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. So this is when Luis decides to go out for a walk down on the pier where he and Sheridan had drawn their initials, where he and Sheridan had vandalized the railing because he is the law and he can do whatever he wants. They had vandalized the railing with a heart with their initials or whatever, right? So he's looking for it. He gets there and he realizes that they're ripping out all of the railings and burning them for some sort of harmony beautification project. So Luis goes looking for the railing, but instead he finds Beth, who is reaching into the fire.
God.
Because she said she saw them put it in there and she was trying to get it out for him, and she kind of burned her hand trying to get it out, but she couldn't get it because it's too hot.
Yeah,
Louise is like
literally on fire.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Louise is like stunned by this act, I guess, of like compassion from Beth. This act of compassion from Beth, and he says, I can't believe you would put your hand in fire for me. And she says, I would do anything for you, Louise. That's not healthy, girl. You're gonna put your hand in a burning, raging fire to pull out a railing with some other bitch's initial on it?
Exactly. If somebody did that for me, I'd be like, you gotta go. You crazy, obviously.
No. That was crazy. So yeah, he's astonished by this. He's moved by it, I think. And he says, maybe this is a sign that it's time for me to get on with my life. And then he says, Beth, will you go to Bermuda with me? Then Beth worries about how being Bermuda will affect Luis. So before she says yes, she's like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like, will you be all right? And he says, I don't know, but I want to find out. And you're the only person I would want to find out with. It's fair enough. Would I want to go to Bermuda with a man who was grieving the loss of the love of his life, and the last place he saw her was in Bermuda, and he's going there in an attempt to maybe try and get over it? No, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Bermuda sounds like I want to go to Bermuda and, drink some daiquiris. I want to go to Bermuda and, shake some ass. I want to go to Bermuda and, you know what I mean? Like, I want to go to Bermuda.
You want to have a good time. It's an island.
Yeah, like, maybe I want to go to Bermuda, get my hair braided. I want to go to Bermuda and, just go to the beach, have a good time, soak up the sun. I do not want to work through your grief with you in Bermuda.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. That's just
and there's like a non-zero chance that when he gets to Bermuda, he's gonna like start thinking that maybe she's alive again and like start looking for her.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't want to deal with that either.
Yeah, the likeliest scenario, and I haven't watched any of the next episodes, but the likeliest scenario is that he's gonna go to Bermuda and start feeling those like, I just felt like Sheridan was here. I just felt like, because Sheridan and fucking Brian are going to Bermuda too, so he's gonna start having those feelings like, oh, Sheridan was here. Sheridan is here. I wouldn't want to go and do that. That's not fun for me. I wouldn't want that any parts of it. So it makes sense that Beth is like asking these questions. But the answer that she got, for me, I wouldn't be interested in going, but
especially since like, is this an all expenses paid trip for two? Or am I gonna have to dig into my own pocket? Okay,
no,
it's for two.
It's for two. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, it's for two. So that's when Hank shows up with all the details of the trip, and he gives the envelope to Luis, and Luis says, yep, I've changed my mind. I do want to go now. And I don't know. He says, Hank asks him why he changed his mind. He's like, I don't know. It was a combination of things, the railing plus the winning this trip to Bermuda, and then they also get tickets to this dinner dance. Sorry. Luis, when he pulls out the details about the trip, it says that they're going to be staying at the Bermuda Pavilions, which is the exact same place that he and Sheridan stayed when they were in Bermuda. Again, I want no parts. Like, no, we can't stay in the same place.
It's gone from bad to worse.
Yeah. And Luis is understandably shaken by this coincidence. But he says he still wants to go, and he says maybe it's exactly what he needs to get the closure that he needs over Sheridan's death, to get closure over Sheridan's death. So he is left alone, and he contemplates if it's time for him to move on and join the living again, yada, 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 whatever. Back at the book cafe, Luis tells Hank about a letter that he wrote to Sheridan that he put in a bottle and threw into the ocean, hoping that it would get to her, maybe as a coping mechanism, which was, I get it, because he said his dad told him something about immigrants, Irish immigrants writing letters to their loved ones and put them in the ocean, whatever. I only say this because Brian also says the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So we learned about the letter, and then he goes home. He finds out about the whole Theresa thing, right? And so he tells his mom, you know what? I'm going to cancel my trip. I want a trip to Bermuda, but I'm going to call Beth. I'm going to cancel the trip. I got to stay here to straighten this out. Pilar says exactly what I was thinking. Pilar says, there's nothing you can do. You're not going to stop Theresa, so you might as well go on your trip, right?
This isn't your problem to solve. Also, let her handle her own business.
Yeah. She practically begs him to just go on to and go to Bermuda. She's like, don't put your life off for us. Go to Bermuda. I hope you have a good time. So he decides to go to Bermuda. Let's talk about what's going on with Sheridan or Diana in Bermuda. And it's crazy because I thought that she was already in Bermuda. Like, I thought Bermuda was like a collection of islands. Am I wrong about that? I thought she was on one of the Bermuda islands.
Yeah, me too. And now I'm just confused as to where she is and how far she is from Bermuda. I don't know.
Yeah, because they start talking about everybody in these episodes. Liz, Brian, Diana, Doc. They're all talking about how Bermuda is so nice and it's so far away, and we never get to go to Bermuda. And I can't wait to go to Bermuda. I thought y'all were there already. Like, I know they weren't on the main island, but I thought they were. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too picky about this. But so Sheridan, for some reason, starts wondering if she was on Bermuda and maybe somebody might recognize her there if she went to Bermuda. Brian rains on her parade as he always does, saying, if somebody knew you, they would have come looking for you by now. And she says, sometimes strange things happen. Think back to how all that stuff happened just a few weeks ago when I saw my presumed dead lover and I was out in the ocean and I was in a different place. Like, stranger things have happened. Meanwhile, Liz has gotten a phone call from somebody who wants her to get, sorry. Meanwhile, Liz has gotten a phone call from someone who wants to hire Brian to sail their boat to Bermuda. And Liz is hoping that Brian will take her to Bermuda for some reason. Like I said, I don't know what is going on with Liz, why they wrote her like this, pathetic and delusional. Honestly,
it's a bad combo.
Honestly, it's giving Simone. It is giving Simone down. The
Simone the sequel.
It's truly like actually Simone Senior, right? Because
that's true.
Right?
She's been in the game longer than Simone.
She's been in the game longer than Simone, and what you don't know is that Simone and Liz are actually related.
So I guess it just runs in the family.
It runs in the family familial delusion.
Yeah.
So Liz is hoping to go to Bermuda with Brian. She's like, he's gonna take me to Bermuda. We're gonna have a good time. It's gonna be like old times, just like we once did. And Doc kind of gives her a dose of reality and says, you really think Brian's gonna take you to Bermuda? And she looks at him with all seriousness in her eyes and says, Brian won't deny me a trip to Bermuda. This girl is in denial. What are you talking about?
The way she said that with her whole chest, like, what? Where are you getting this information from?
Brian wouldn't deny me a trip to Bermuda. So when Brian comes back, Liz is happy. She's beaming. She gives him the news about the boat. She's all excited. Talks about all the good. You're just like, you remember all the good times we had on Bermuda, all the dances we went to, all the fun we had. And he goes, you know what, Liz? You just gave me a great idea. Thanks. And so he says, I have to ask you something, and I hope you'll say yes. And she's like, oh, really? And she's smiling. She's beaming. She's so excited. He says, you're reading my mind, aren't you? You're reading my mind. Liz, like I said, Liz is absolutely beaming. This girl is so excited. Bless her heart. Then Brian says, he asks her, can I take Diana to Bermuda with me? Since the cafe is closed due to the fire, and so she doesn't have any work to do around here, right? Can I take her to Bermuda with me? Liz is crushed. Diana hears this conversation. She's ecstatic. She's like, oh, yes, because she's been wanting to go to Bermuda thinking maybe somebody there knows her.
Yeah.
But Liz immediately shuts it down. She says, no, Diana cannot go to Bermuda with you. She says she has work to do. That maybe the cafe is closed, but there's plenty of work to be done around here. And she's like, and you, Diana, you wanted a job so you could pay your own way, right? Well, there's work to be done. You can't go gallivanting off to Bermuda. Brian says to her, you're being really unfair about this. No, she's not. Let me be real. Let me just be completely honest with y'all. I am on Liz's side with this. Now, do I believe that she should have had any reason? Now, do I believe she had any reason to believe that Brian was going to take her to Bermuda? Absolutely not. However, if I like a man, and we not just I like him, we have history together. Mm-hmm. I kind of want you back. How crazy does it look for me to be like, yeah, here's a free trip to Bermuda, and this lady works for me, right? This lady works for you, and there is work to be done, and she's been living at your establishment for months on end for free, as has Brian. He owes you tons of money. Yeah, there's work to be done.
That's true. Just because the cafe burned down doesn't mean we don't need somebody to clean up the ashes or whatever. Run the what is it, like a hotel?
Yeah, it's a hotel.
Yeah, we still need somebody to run it.
Yeah. Call me bitter if you want to, but I absolutely would be like, nah, she cannot go. No, she's busy. You are getting paid to take that boat to Bermuda and bring your ass back. She's not getting paid to take that boat to Bermuda. She's getting paid to stay here and do work here, right? But yeah, Brian tells her, you're being really unfair about this. But Diana, who's a sweetheart, for all her faults, she is a sweetheart. She's like, no, Liz is right. I should stay. I should be here and working. I owe her so much. I owe you so much, Liz. I'm so sorry. I should have thought about that. So Brian's like, I guess I'll be going to Bermuda alone then. So it's like, Liz is still disappointed though, which is weird. Like, he wanted to take Diana. What makes you think when you said no to him that he was going to take you instead?
Because if that was like on his mind, like if that was ever an option for him, he would have just asked you first.
Girl, he don't want you. That man does not want you. And like, move on with your life. Kick him out, honestly, so that you can move on.
Honestly, I wouldn't even want somebody who like is so attracted to this woman who has like no memories or personality, and that's kind of the reason why he likes her. Like, I'd be like, okay, that's a red flag. I'm getting rid of him.
You're absolutely right, Nah. You're absolutely right. So Liz immediately relents and is like, you know what? Go to Bermuda, have a good time. Diana and Brian are elated, over the moon, so excited. Doc is like, at this point, constantly in Liz's ear, trying to like cheer her on to try and get back together with Brian. She's like, if you want to get back together with Brian, this isn't the way to do it. But he doesn't want her. So
Keep that up.
Brian and Diana, they discuss going to Bermuda. Diana's hoping that someone there will recognize her and can tell her who she is. He, of course, dashes her hopes again and tells her, I wish you could live in the present and live the life that you're living now to the fullest and stop worrying about the life that you left behind. Diana says because I was about to say it, but she said it for me. She was like, you know your past. You know where you came from. You know who you are. That's a privilege for you. I don't have that. Mm-hmm. She said a lot nicer. She was very kind about it. But for me, that pissed me off. This whole him continuing to tell her, like, stop trying to figure out who you are and just enjoy the life you have now. It's hard. Exactly. What life? I don't even know who I am. I don't know my name.
Yeah, that's like I'm sure that's a terrible feeling to have. Like, so he has no right to speak on what she needs to do.
I hate him. I really hate him. I just wish you would live your life you have now to the fullest and stop worrying about the life you left behind. I didn't leave a life behind. You left a life behind. You left your life behind willingly. I didn't do that. I didn't leave a life behind. I lost a life. Mm-hmm. We're not living in the same reality. I don't like him at all.
I agree 100%. He is a very unlikable, super selfish, just ugh.
Yeah, just ugh. Exactly. But she tells him, my hopes are all I have, and I can't let them go. That's what she said.
Okay, makes more sense.
Yeah. She says, the hope is all I have. I can't let that go, basically. And she talks about how hard it is not knowing where she came from or who she is, and that he really doesn't understand what that's like. And during this conversation, she subconsciously is like doodling with a stick on the sand, and she draws a heart with her and Luis's initials in it, just like the one that was drawn on the boardwalk or whatever back in Harmony. And then Brian comes back and he says some dumb shit about like, oh yeah, sometimes people with amnesia, I was reading about it, sometimes people with amnesia, they do like little absent-minded things that they used to do in their old life, and boom, it brings back their memories. It's like a clue to who they are. And then he notices the little heart that she had drawn, but by the time they look down at it, the shore has like washed away what it was, basically. Like, you could see the remnants of it, but you can't see what it was. She's like, oh no, what if that was a clue to my past life? Okay, girl. I mean, it was, but whatever. It was stupid. All of these little things irritate me. And so they load up the boat to get ready to head to Bermuda. And that's when Liz shows up and she brings Brian. She's like, I brought you your old duffel bag. It's packed with some of your favorite things. Girl, why are you packing a bag for him?
Yeah, he's not your child. Why are you packing him lunch?
Yeah. Let him do that for himself. Why are you? She's pathetic.
It's already bad enough that Diana is coming, so now you gotta run this whole hotel by yourself. At least I'm assuming so. I haven't seen any other employees.
Right.
I'm sure they exist, but yeah. Girls, stop being nice to him.
Yeah, stop being nice to him. I don't like this. She's like, it's got all your favorite things in it, Brian. And he's like, oh, thanks, Liz. You're a real friend.
Friend.
I can't stand him. So yeah, she brings him the duffel bag, and then Liz tells Diana, she says, you know, I hope you do remember who you are. I hope you do remember who you are. Which, because if Diana remembers who she is, she can go back to her old life, and Liz can have Brian again, I guess. But he doesn't want you. If he was gonna be with you, he would have been with you.
Yeah, like once Diana's gone, Brian is just gonna go after the next vulnerable woman he sees. He's gonna find his next target, you know?
Find next victim.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Because either once she finds out who she is, there's one of two things will happen. She will go back to her old life and he'll stay there, or he will follow her to wherever she's going.
Yeah, like a leech.
There's no version of events where he gets with Liz. Because he had every opportunity to be with her. She has made herself readily available to him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want her. They used to be together, and he basically told her, nah, girl, I don't want you. So, but she just keeps.
Did we ever find out like why specifically they broke up?
Not really. We were told that they were in different places. He didn't want to commit to her, basically. He wasn't ready to be in a committed relationship. Translation, he wasn't that into her.
Yeah.
Right?
And she should have got the hint then.
Yeah. So Liz then asked them, Liz, their boss, then asked them, how long are you going to be gone? And Brian says, I don't know.
Fired. Yeah. Don't even bother coming back.
What do you mean? He says, I don't know. I told the hotel to just keep the reservation open. And Liz says, oh, well, where are you staying? And Brian says, well, there's only one place on Bermuda that gives discounts to hotel employees. And Diana blurts out, the pavilions, Bermuda pavilions. And Brian's like, yeah, how did you know that? And she's like, I don't know. It just came to me somehow. And Liz posits, Liz posits that perhaps Sheridan and Diana had stayed there before she got her amnesia. She was a guest there before. I just want to note this one thing where Brian's like, there's only one hotel on Bermuda that gives discounts to hotel employees. Let me tell y'all something. As a person who has worked in 3 separate hotels, 2 major chain hotels, every hotel gives employee discounts, but you have to work for that chain of hotels.
Yeah, it's not like they give out, like, yeah, that wouldn't make sense to me either. Like,
yeah, you have
they
to
just
work-
giving out discounts to every hotel employee they see.
And how can they verify that you work for a hotel?
Yeah.
Right? Like in the system, like I worked for IHG and I worked for Hilton hotels. And like when I wanted to book a hotel room with my employee discount, like I would have to go into the system and like put in like my employee ID and like, you know, it would pull me up and I would be able to get discounted hotels. How would this random hotel know that you work for another random hotel on a random island somewhere?
Yeah.
Because you just call them and say, hey, I work for a hotel. Give me a discount. That's not how it works.
Yeah, like, okay, scam. That doesn't sound... But whatever.
Yeah, whatever. That's a small thing. It's not an important thing. It's just a little thing that made me... gave me pause. So anyway, yeah, Liz then gives them some tickets to a special dinner dance that they have each year in the spring. And she says she had bought them for herself, but it's not going to work out. I guess... Which is crazy because she had just gotten the phone call about going to Bermuda, about the Bermuda thing. So my question was, did Liz buy these tickets in hopes of asking Brian to go to the dance with her? Or did she buy them after she found out about the Brian needing to sail to Bermuda and assuming he was going to take her?
I feel like the second option is like, it doesn't give her enough time because she literally just found out. So I'm leaning towards the first one, but like,
that doesn't make sense either.
It doesn't make sense either because, like, what makes her think that would, like, come around, like, anytime soon? Maybe these tickets never expire, so she's just been, like, holding on to them forever, waiting, hoping.
So, waiting and hoping and pleading. So, Liz gives them the tickets. They're very excited about the tickets. And then the 3 of them have dinner together. And at one point, Brian and Liz are left alone for a very awkward moment. And he says, you know, I want to thank you again for the dinner dance tickets. And she says, I still remember the dance that you and I went to together. We had a great time. And he then apologizes to her saying, I'm sorry, Liz, but she cuts him off. She says, I had no business thinking that you would invite me to Bermuda in the first place. And then he goes, you still mean a lot to me. Ugh, I don't like this man at all.
Just throwing her just enough crumbs so that she'll stick around, so he can use her, but not enough to like.
You still mean a lot to me. I wrote it in those like SpongeBob letters. You know what I'm talking about? The SpongeBob.
Oh yeah,
You still mean a lot to me. But she cuts him off and she's like, I'm not in the mood for the we'll still be close friends talk right now. Please. and then he excuses himself to like, because it's awkward. So he goes and like finds Diana, I guess. And so when he gets up, she goes, why Diana and not me? She doesn't even love you yet. Liz, girl, get a grip. Why Diana and not me? She doesn't even love you yet. Yeah, and he doesn't even love you.
Ever.
He doesn't even love you. So I don't know. Whatever. They all sit back down for dinner again, and Diana worries about not having anything to wear. She's like, what's the dress code at the resort? Oh my goodness, I don't know if I have anything nice to wear. And
dress
Liz
code? It's a vacation spot. What does she mean dress code?
I don't know. I guess maybe because they're going to this dinner dance and maybe that might be a formal affair. I don't know. But Liz tells her, I have lots of great resort wear that's not going to get any use. So you can borrow some of my stuff. Liz, girl, stop. I don't get this. I don't get it with Liz. I know that I think she likes Diana well enough, right? I guess she thinks if she's nice to Diana, that will like build goodwill with Brian. I guess. I don't know. Because again, if it were me, no, bitch, you cannot have any of my clothes.
Yeah. And it's like, she's actively helping Diana, which is the exact opposite of what she wants. Because if she helps Diana, then that's gonna like, I guess, make her and Brian closer. So she's gonna lose Brian.
I just don't care. I just don't care for this idea that Liz has to bend over backwards for Diana when she likes Diana well enough, but Diana is basically a threat to her, right? She wants to be with Brian. It's hard for her to see Diana with Brian. I don't know. I don't want to be like the person who's like petty, but it's not petty to say like to draw a boundary. That's what it is. I think that's what it is for me, is that Liz should draw a boundary between her and Diana and Brian. Diana, if she should go ahead and realize, okay, he doesn't want to be with me. Which she seems to have realized, right? Yeah. He doesn't want to be with me. He clearly wants to be with her. Let them, but leave me out of it. Right?
Yeah. Stop trying to include me. Well, she's actually just including herself.
That's what I'm saying. Why is she including herself? Stop including yourself.
Yeah,
stop putting yourself in it. And just because Brian asked you to, the thing is, here's what I imagine would have happened anyway, because this has happened multiple times where Diana kind of needs something. Brian asks Liz to give it to her. So in a way, I might be giving Liz a little bit too much credit here, but in a way, it seems maybe she just went ahead and skipped that step where Brian comes to her and says, hey, can you do this thing for Diana? Can you do this thing for my girlfriend? And she just went ahead and said, you can borrow some clothes from me, because I already know Brian's going to fucking ask me to do it anyway. Yeah.
So she's just skipping that.
Yeah. So anyway, Liz leaves, and then Diana continues to just gush about how much she's excited about going to Bermuda, hoping somebody there knows her. But if nobody does, she's gonna have a good time either way. And then she talks about how I'm gonna have a good time because I'll be there with you, and you. I mean that with all my heart. And I don't know. I just hated it.
Yeah, that's coming across.
So Brian and Diana, they set sail off to Bermuda. They're out in the water, and then they see a bottle floating in the ocean, and it looked like, she was like, there looks like there's something inside. So she gets him to fish it out of the water. She opens it up, she pulls it out, and it's a love letter. It is Luis's love letter to Sheridan, but it doesn't say, dear Sheridan, love Luis. It says, my love.
Like, why would you, like, I know he was mostly writing it as like a coping mechanism, like you said, like that was like the point, but just in case, why wouldn't you put names?
I hate this. They've done it a lot. They've done it a lot to this point. I should have been expecting it. She reads the letter. There's no mention of anybody's names in this letter. But it brings her to tears. It brings her to absolute tears. And she says, this is what true love is. And then she says, I wonder, was this letter for me? From the man that I love? And Brian's like, well, anything's possible. Anything's possible. And Sheridan says, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to burst your bubble. We're supposed to be having a good time. And I told you I was going to leave that whole thing behind and let go of my love. And you're right. I'm just grasping at straws. And he tells her, well, Diana, I just want you to be happy and have love in your life. And she says, maybe my happiness could be right here in the present. And then Brian makes a little speech about people moving on and finding new love. And Diana says, I'm beginning to understand how people can move on and live happily ever after. Then they have some trouble with the boat engine, y'all.
This boat, I'm not gonna lie. I'm guessing Bermuda isn't far from whatever nondescript island they're on, but I just feel like it's just still so unsafe. Like, they're on this tiny, tiny little sailboat. It's like the middle of the night. It just doesn't seem safe.
Yeah, I don't know why they would have sailed out at night, but that's what they did. Well, I think Sheridan or Diana wanted to leave ASAP, and they were going to leave in the morning, but she kind of convinced him, like, let's just go now.
Yeah, let me listen to the woman who has never sailed before and has no memory.
Yeah, exactly. So, y'all, there's some trouble with the boat engine, right? And so, what's his name goes down to check on the boat engine and stuff. And actually, before that, there's one thing that I was gonna skip these notes because they're not important, but sometimes there's some things that I want to say. So we hear the boat engine making noise, but Brian decides to ignore it first, right? We hear it twice. The first time, Brian decides to ignore the sound, and they just kind of recap about Diana's amnesia and their trip to Harmony, and then she wonders why she has such a connection to Harmony, and then they have a conversation around Brian's family in Harmony, and then they have more conversation around Diana's hope to find out about her past, right? And then Brian makes a comment about finding Diana in the ocean, like when he found her in the first place, and she's like, oh, I probably looked such a mess. I was probably such a mess. And he was like, no, you had an inner beauty that shined through. She was knocked out. What are you talking about? The only way you know if somebody has inner beauty is if you talk to them. Right?
She was unresponsive.
That pissed me off. You had an inner beauty that shined through. How did you know? You don't know anything about this lady. You just fished her out of the ocean. She's knocked out, covered in seaweed. She had an inner beauty that shined through based on what? No, she had a pretty face that you liked. I don't like him at all. But anyway... The engine makes some more noise, so Brian's like, I gotta go check it. So he goes down to check it. Sheridan then is like standing at the edge of the boat. She's like peering out over the edge. She's like looking. She's like, I can see the lights of Bermuda. I can't wait. Maybe somebody out there, someone knows me. Somewhere out there beneath the pale moonlight, someone's thinking of me. You know that? You know that. You know exactly where that's from. Naya. I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised you don't know where that's from. Because you like animation and stuff. Did you ever watch, you never watched American Tail?
Oh, I did, but I've only watched it like once or maybe twice. I watched,
It's in Fievel Goes West too.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen Fievel Goes West more than I've seen an American Tail.
You would have, because that was my movie. I loved Fievel Goes West. American Tail is very good. I loved Fievel Goes West. I think it's because it had more songs in it.
That makes sense.
But yeah, that's from an American Tail /
I haven't seen it enough to know the songs off the top of my head. It did sound vaguely familiar, but I was like, I don't know exactly what this is from.
Well, she's peering out over the side, somewhere out there, and then and you could see. I knew it was coming. I saw this coming from 10 miles away. I saw it coming. She's standing there. Her head is lined up perfectly with the pole of the sail. I was like, that sail's going to fucking move. It's going to knock her overboard. It's going to hit her in the head. It's going to knock her overboard. And that's exactly what it did. It swung. It hit her in the back of the head. She went flying over the side of the boat. And now the last thing we see of Diana, she just floating face down in the water. Brian was like, huh, what was that? Probably nothing. And then he just like goes back to working. But we know he's going to jump in. He's going to save her. Like, he's going to save her life.
Hopefully it knocks something loose. Maybe she'll remember something.
She won't. But anyway, no, I think the first time I watched this, if I was watching this for the first time, I probably would also be like, oh, well, she got a bump on the head again, you know, because like other sitcoms and stuff shows that's how it works. You know,
that's
you hit on the head,
logic.
and then they hit you on the head again and you get your memory back. So yeah, if I was watching this for the first time, I'd probably be like, oh, maybe she'll remember something. But no, she's not going to remember anything. So you have anything else to add? We're done. We're done. You got anything else to add?
Honestly, I feel like you covered everything that I wanted to talk about. Because, well, there was one thing, but we kind of already mentioned it, where like this was like after I finished watching the episodes, and I was like confused about the fact that Sheridan went to Harmony and absolutely no one knew who she was.
Yeah.
Like, what is the purpose of that? Like, why even have her go to Harmony if no one was going to recognize her in the first place? I feel like that just serves to, like, make the audience mad. Because that's what it did for me.
What it did. That's exactly what it did. No, you're right. You're right. That's what it did.
Because it doesn't make any logical sense. Like, she's one of the most important people in Harmony. How would no one know who she is?
Yeah. She was there for over a week. They were there from Christmas Eve till New Year's Eve, right after New Year's Day, basically. So they were there for, like, a week. And she did not encounter a single soul who knew her, which is crazy.
I guess Harmony has amnesia too.
I guess so. I guess so. So with that, that's the episode. Naya, you want anybody to check you out online? Where can they follow you? You don't have to. You can just say no.
I mean, okay, if you want to see some like art or whatever, you can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Kokebii, KOKEBII_. So yeah, if you want to follow me.
All right. And I'll link that in the description. And as always, you can catch me on all the social media. You know, check the link in the description, whatever. I'm ready to get off of here.
Me too. I'm getting kind of hot. Like, because it turned my AC off.
You might as well have left it on. I left mine on.
I did, because you already talked about how there was air noise, and I didn't want to add to that because the AC is literally like right by my head. So
yeah. Well, so with that, everybody, you are my passion for life.
Yay, we did it.
We did it.